Let's record. So great to see everyone. Welcome. We've got some people chiming in from all over the world. Billy and Valeria, you guys want to let everyone know where you are?
Yes. So we are both with Billy in Himalayas in India, near Rishikesh, in a beautiful yoga school called Sattva Yoga Academy. And yeah, I've done my teacher training and stayed here for a while. And now Billy also got motivated to come here. So I'm really, really happy that he's experiencing also the beauty of these teachings now.
Well,
And I would recommend this place for anyone.
as we
Yeah.
allow people to join us, and we'll get started and welcome everybody. Valeria, share with everybody what you're accomplishing out there, because you've been out there for quite some time, and it's quite relevant to Arkana because your superpowers have strengthened.
Yeah, it's definitely strengthening the superpowers in a many dimensions. And so we are basically practicing Himalayan Kriya Yoga, which comes from the Himalayan traditions. And we're practicing many aspects of yoga. So it takes really like this integrative approach where we're practicing how to meditate, how to do these different kriyas, which is like a liberating action. We practice breathing. We practice also asana, so the physical yoga practice, and a lot of wisdom. And through these all aspects, mantra as well, and mudras, hand gestures. So through these techniques, what it gives us, it really aligns our energy, our body into that vertical connection to the divine, and magic starts happening. It's like you are just in alignment with everything in life in general, and whatever as we are talking today about suffering, whatever suffering you're going through now, it doesn't feel so intense anymore. You have all these tools to cope with that, and you, even if you fall, you quickly catch yourself and get back into alignment because you now have the tools how to get there and how to help yourself and also others around you. So that's that's something. But I mean, it's such a multi-dimensional of thing that we're learning here. It's, you have to experience it. You cannot with words even describe everything that is happening here. But Billy also, he just told me today how he has, even you've been here only 1 week and you've seen already how the things around you just start changing. Everything starts aligning, and the magic, like you think of something, like funny thing happened. Billy thought, okay, I would love to throw Valeria's phone because it was too much on my phone working. And the phone fell 5 minutes after that out of the balcony. So yeah, my phone a bit destroyed. But I mean, that's not a good example. But sometimes, good things happen when we think of, okay, I would like this thing. And you just tap into that vibration and that thing just shows up in front of you. So yeah, magic happens.
That's going to play very, very nicely into this topic today because I'm
Yes, yes.
for anybody that has never been here before. I see a couple of new faces. I just want to say welcome um, to our Arkana Integration Mastermind. Um, this is just a safe place that exists for people that are kind of on the outside looking in at, maybe sitting with plant medicine. But for the most part, I see a lot of familiar faces of people that have um, had that experience. And we just are just big, big fans of Arkana and, Jose's mission. I don't know if Jose is joining us today. We never know. There's always a maybe, right? Unless you have a definitive answer for that, Billy.
I asked him to come.
Okay. Well, I know that sometimes that he said he was going to be here, he wasn't. So maybe it'll work the other way today. Who knows? But anyway, my name is Dr. JC Dornick, otherwise known as the Dragon, if you ever want to know why. we'll have to have another conversation. It's pretty complicated. But the premise of this gathering is, based on Arkana's desire to, be there in an extraordinary way for people to do the real work, outside of the medicine. When I was there the first time I ever worked with plant medicine, I learned that was just a portion of it, and that was one of the things that I really loved about Arkana, is that how they really go the extra mile, to take people in their arms, in the family, outside of the experience. So Billy and I were sitting there one day, and we just identified that the integration process is just so important, so valuable. This idea of taking these breakthroughs and bringing them back home into, whatever you call your baseline reality, and just processing what to do with them. So that's the reason that we started this. And just so you know, there's so much support and help out there for us. There's this is a community gathering, but there's the Friends of Arkana Facebook group. I know that you can reach out to anybody in Arkana, including Jose, and get a response. But also, Valeria is now, an integration coach, with Arkana. So I just want you to know that, like, this is something that we all cherish, but it's not something you have to wait 30 days for. If you're needing to have a conversation with somebody. So anyway, I've been tasked, I'm a podcaster, and so I have the gift of gab, and also the gift of coming up with some cool topics. So we always go through this funny process. Billy and I were like, what's the topic? And one of us says something and we go, yes. So today it is the topic of suffering, and it's a popular topic, isn't it? Has anyone here ever just not experienced suffering? Does anybody suffer free? So we want to call this suffer less, right? Because kind of to highlight what we heard from Valeria. So with your permission, I'm going to kind of just share a couple of insights and then perhaps drop a question and start a conversation. But I just want you to know it's just such an honor and privilege to be here with you. This family, this experience has completely changed my life. I have no idea what would be in my life right now, and if all these blessings that I'm noticing would be here with it. So let's just talk a little bit about suffering. And I publish a free newsletter, a Substack newsletter called the Make Sense Substack. If anybody wants the entirety of this, it's out there. Maybe I'll share that with you. So think about it. For those of you that have sat with medicine, you've sat with medicine, which also means that you've sat with your shadows, and you returned from that experience 1, 2, 3, 4, some of you many, many times, with these downloads or uploads that may still be shaking your identity. It's interesting to think about that, because of course they're still shaking my identity. I just have a different relationship with shaking now, I think. Exposing your truth and inviting basically a new way of you being. That was like an opportunity or an invitation. But here's the paradox. There's a paradox with suffering. Many suffer more after the breakthrough, not less. Isn't that interesting? How a lot of us went on this experience. And by the way, Billy, a big reason that I actually went and met you is because of this pink-haired lady here, who's a friend of mine that was like, oh, you got to go do ayahuasca. So that was where that all started. Another story. Thank you, Darcy. But think about it. You'd ever notice how sometimes the suffering begins after the breakthrough, after the knowing, right? I went there hoping that I was just going to come out of there and be like, oh my God, I'm clear. I'm back to factory settings. Everything gets great now, right? It's not really what happened with me. So why is that? Because they now see the patterns that they once kept in the blind spots, right? The unconscious blind spots, and they still feel stuck in them. In fact, it's almost inconvenient because when they're in the blind spots, you don't have to deal with them, but now they're out. So the suffering process ensues for many of us. So they know their truth, but they can't find the language or alignment for it in their world. Does anybody feel like that when you experienced what you experienced and you learned what you learned? Did anybody struggle to find the language and proper alignment of what it meant in your real world? That's what I love about Ty. Ty speaks so openly, and I hope we'll hear from him later about that stuff, but that was what I was observing. So this is where we acknowledge how suffering becomes optional. Now, this is something you're going to have to entertain, right? So to all of you open and curious people, you're going to love this. To all of you that are closed and fixed and rigid, you got some work to do because you're going to have to entertain some different ideas here today. So everything in life unfolds as a result of our perception. In fact, without perception or acknowledgement of something, if you think about it, it doesn't even exist. So that's the playing field that we're going to have fun with today. So remember these two things. And I'll provide this all for you if you want it. And these are some of the core tenets. It's when we change the way that we look at things that the things that we look at begin to change. So what that means is even if you claim or feel to be suffering, if you step back from that and just kind of go, my favorite sound, what's that? You got to acknowledge that the only reason it exists is because you acknowledged it. And there's some fun things that we can do in that area. And then the second is this. If we accept that plant medicine is a teacher, did anybody hear that when you worked with plant medicine, that it's a teacher? I forgot about that pretty quickly. But if we acknowledge that it's a teacher, then perhaps our goal is to find the lesson. Just sit with that for a second. Maybe suffering is a message. So here, I wrote 3 powerful lessons, and I don't want to take too much time up. So I'm just going to share one of them, and then we're going to have a question. If anybody wants any of the other ones, they're pretty cool. So just I'll share the Substack. So this one is called The Parable of the 2 Arrows of Suffering. Raise your hand if you know this parable. The 2 Arrows of Suffering. Oh my goodness. This is exciting because this is like something that changed my whole life and you guys don't know about. Okay, this is great. I didn't create this, but it's great. So a foundational teaching in Buddhism, which is a close friend to probably most of you, tells us that pain is inevitable, but suffering, here's the word again, is optional. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So in the parable of 2 arrows of suffering, we recognize these things. The first arrow of suffering is the unavoidable pain that life throws at us. Things like illness, heartbreak, loss, disappointment. It comes both unexpectedly and uninvited. Raise your hand if that's the worst kind of suffering, is the one you didn't ask for. Right? Anybody here wake up this morning and be like, I'm going to go suffer? Well, if you're a stoic, you do. If you do like Valeria and Billy on our last trip I was with them, we did cold plunges. Like that's called voluntary discomfort. So a lot of you do like to suffer, but that's because you look at it differently. So the first arrow is unavoidable. However, the second arrow is the one that you pull back the bow and shoot yourself with. And which arrow is that? That's the arrow that we shoot through the stories that we tell, right? Through the way we define things, resistance, things like blame, and the ever popular victimhood. So if you're a victim of struggling, I just want you to recognize and play with the idea that that's the second arrow, how we interpret and respond to the unavoidable. So the first arrow wounds our body and our heart. However, the second arrow wounds our spirit. Has anyone ever struggled with suffering and felt exhausted from it? Right? Or does anybody have fun with that? You enjoy it, right? So that's what it means. So when we rehash the pain, justify it, or assign it meaning like, why is this happening to me? I don't understand why this is happening to me. We stay in the loop of suffering. But when we recognize that the second arrow for what it is, our choice of response, we begin to reclaim our power. So just opening up a discussion here, and I'm going to ask you guys a question. I thought that was a fun way to enter the arena of this conversation, is just to be able to allow yourself, for the sake of this conversation, to change the way you look at things. Now, remember, I'm the guy that wears glasses without lenses. So I've been doing this for a long time. Okay, so here's a question that I want to present to you. And, Billy and Valeria, you guys can open up, or anybody else, anything, as long as it's respectful of others and in some sort of solution-focused way, is game. So in what ways can you restructure your perspective on suffering so you can think about your own situation from seeing it as something that is happening to you to that of something that is happening for you? So let's play. Anybody want to chime in? Billy, you want to process that one? There's Ty. Let's let Ty jump into the arena in a way.
Oh man, it's so nice to be back on this call. Appreciate you guys moving to Saturday, so gives me availability to jump in for my own business. But something that I'm actively working through, suffering, is from an entrepreneur standpoint. I always wanted to start my own business, and I am now actively in that space. However, you find yourself in a lot of almost feel like running in circles, where it's like my day job literally pays for me to work at this business that I'm trying to start. And it feels like there's no end to it. And I sit down with my business partner just last week, and we're kind of like crunching the numbers, and we have this idea of what we want this concept to be. However, it just, for whatever reason, it just continues to run into a lot of resistance. And I recognized in that moment, I was hyper focused on the numbers of life or the finances of life. And I was using the perception of what society would call as a successful business. And that's what was determining my own current feeling about my business. But if I were to remove that piece of it and actually zoom out and look at what's happening, is we're creating something, literally creating something, which is such a magnificent magic that we all have in this world as human beings in this human experience. And God's not looking at me and saying, how much money did you make this last quarter? It is, look at you having fun. Look at you creating something for your community, that now we're actively moving into the space of, if I had all the capital that was needed, we would have done a plug and play and created 9 bars, big party space for the whole community. And it would be successful, to be honest. But as I experienced what I did in Peru, in Arkana, I started to have this conversation with myself, is how does this business align with where I'm at now? Now I'm a business owner that creates bars that does not drink. And that was simply just because I felt the optimization of my health, and my health was also in direct correlation with me getting connected with source. So I just kept on working on, maybe I should just keep getting healthier. And then that allows this connection to get a little stronger. And that's been the case for myself. But fast forward, now we're a year past, and we're exploring what our personal identity is and how that we can create that in the business that we have right now. And so I started hosting breathwork classes, free breathwork classes in our community. And we're up to, without any social media at all, we're up to 30, 35 people organically showing up and participating in this and watching lives change. And as this continues to organically grow, again, I have another meeting with my business partners. I'm like, this makes sense for who I am, that I need to put my face in this. And I don't want to just plug and play a breathwork class here and there in one of our open places that we haven't opened yet. I want to create a space for it. And immediately we all just agreed, like, this makes so much more sense. So now we're working with a nonprofit about to open up a new space that is all spiritual and wellness oriented, where we're going to host all of these classes. And it really just took me just a moment of stepping back and realizing my perspective was completely off this entire time. And now that I actually get to show my truth, this is what organically changes for my own personal life, but also for the community to come out and support it. They see that this is authentic to who I am and what we're trying to do and make the movement within our own community. But literally the shift in perception, every time I go back to this double slit experiment of when I observe what I'm trying to make happen, it's going to fucking do whatever it's going to do. But when I can step back and stop observing it through my own eyes of what I think should happen, that's when all of the magic starts to unfold. And then make my life a lot easier, because then it's just unfolding by itself and I just follow the breadcrumbs.
Billy?
Congratulations, Ty. That's a beautiful thing that you're doing. And really, it feeds into this. Because when JC told me that the topic was going to be on suffering, I didn't like it at first, because I don't like this concept of suffering. Because I argue that suffering doesn't exist. But he's covered this because it's the perception of what you think you're suffering about, rather than seeing it through the lens of what am I learning, how am I growing, what is it showing me, etc. And part of what you're saying, and part of that process is just shifting from a state of fear into a state of love, a state of fear into a state of faith, and trusting and allowing, flowing with grace, almost like a divine surrender through the heart. And when you do that, the way that you show up for yourself, the way you show up for your family, your community, will automatically shift your personal reality, the reality around you, and then the reality in your communities, or the reality of your business, in alignment with love. And who suffers from too much love? No, nobody. Like there is no suffering from a pure heart. So it's more like shifting. Like what you're doing is thinking, like, how can I be of service? Which comes from a place of love. Like, how can I show up in this world with service? And it's a beautiful thing. So really, that's what I have to say about that. It's just suffering and shifting from fear to love, creating through love, connecting with love within yourself, and spreading that in the world around you. And if you do that, you don't need to worry about anything, because you align with the divine and let it play itself out. You might experience hardship. Hardship will make you grow as it untangles itself. It's like if you swim up a river, you're gonna feel a struggle. But as you swim, you'll actually grow like big muscles. You'll grow big lats, and eventually, and then when you start flowing down the river, you'll be stronger. So a little bit of the struggle isn't a suffering; it's a strengthening. And yeah, in that way, just live from love, from a space of love, and don't suffer, but allow a little bit of struggle to make you stronger, and then flow. That's it.
It's delicious. As I always say, that's some good shift. one thing to recognize that because somebody might be in a comparative reality right now of thinking, yeah, but that's Ty. So, let's acknowledge also that Ty is fully engaged in the work and has gotten to a place that a lot of us have to get to, that we're always going to work on, where he's open and curious. He's not fixed and rigid. There's a great book out there by this guy named Adam Grant called Think Again. And it just talks about the idea, like, are you in a space where you allow yourself to rethink things, or are you fixed and rigid? So, when Ty mentions that he allows himself to identify things that are in the peripheral and not just maybe ego driven or something, you know, that's a decision that he made to allow himself into that space. And Ty, I would assume that that's connected to you having a different relationship, like as Billy said, with suffering, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. I also agree with Billy in the fact that suffering isn't I don't even allow that to kind of enter into the equation as far from a language standpoint. Is I look for resistance, and with resistance creates assistance to what I'm going to become. And so when I find the resistance, I know I'm going in the correct direction. If it becomes too simple, too flowy for me, I typically will step back for a second and view the whole thing. And sometimes I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just not used to a nice, sweet flow. I'm typically always looking for that upstream river, but on occasion, I realize that's not always needed. And it's just trying to figure out when I need to be looking for resistance or just appreciate the flow of the river for right now. But it's applied to so many things in my life. Some part of the suffering that I experienced following Arkana and still do is when I go into this really deep self-exploration and really trying to focus on these now intricacy moments of my life. In Arkana, I met the big picture. I hit the big piece that I wanted to heal. But all that did was it removed that big shadow to see all these little tiny shadows all over the place. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even know those existed because I was so hyper fixated on this one big thing. But whenever that got moved, I was now set with a bunch of new challenges, challenges that I was excited to go to, but challenges that I also did not see initially. And one is my relationship with my own wife. Whenever we go into this place of awakening and experience this new love of oneself, exploring oneself, you now have to find a way to align a new version of you with an older relationship. And now navigating that space is wildly painful, but wildly exciting at the same time, which also, again, is meaning I found my resistance and I'm trying to run into it as hard as can. But I'm blessed to have a partner that recognizes it with me. And that we've now been together for almost 19 years, half of our lives, a little over half of our lives. And we just had to sit down literally last week, even. And it was that the reason why we struggled the most is we were 17, 18 years old when we were together. And a part of our subconscious is we're trying to keep that 17-year-old's version of a relationship alive. When I killed that motherfucker, and I killed this motherfucker, and I killed 1,000 other versions of me up until this point. I'm like, I can't be that old self anymore. This is where I am. This is my truth. Now let's figure out how we rebuild this relationship moving forward. And with just like that small epiphany, we're both like, oh my God, that makes way more sense. We're trying to be children when we become these very complex adults. So moving forward, it's like, again, resistance was assistance.
Killed that motherfucker. I love it. You know, another aspect, and maybe this will help somebody else chime in, and I love when Ty speaks, is the whole nature of Buddhism was created around suffering. It's like suffering was the pathway to self-actualization and enlightenment, was developing this relationship. And one of the greatest very short, easy book, great lesson, is No Mud, No Lotus. And it just reminds us that, you know, the most beautiful things in life require, as he says, resistance. You know, the lotus grows not only in mud, but smelly, disgusting mud. You know, so how could something so beautiful come from something? And then, you know, Thich Nhat Hanh talks about, you know, the idea that when you look at the beauty of a lotus, which a lot of us use lotuses in many, many ways. Tattoos. I mean, somebody's got a tattoo of a lotus here. Can you see the mud in the lotus? Because if you can see the lotus in the mud. And that's how you start to play with suffering. And I would assume, Valeria, that, you know, because we can know this stuff and walk around with t-shirts that say, I know things. Or maybe Billy just coined a new shirt that says, I'm in line with the divine. Like we could know these things, but it's putting them into practice, you know, that is another form of suffering. I mean, have you ever watched, you know, Valeria do yoga, like, and smile while she's doing it? Because all I'm thinking is like, I'm going to die. Like, I remember when we were in Mexico, I took one of her classes. I thought I was going to die. And Lexi loves it too, you know. So if you want to correlate that, maybe, Valeria, that might be a good space for it.
So yes, for sure, me too. I didn't get to yoga by being in a comfort zone. So that's something as well. I find suffering actually very beautiful thing, because what it takes us is from that comfort zone to actually find the answers, find the tools, find the ways to, you know, towards evolution, towards getting better and growth. And for me, yoga was that. I was suffering also a lot before, and I just didn't have the answers. And somehow the universe took me to yoga. And I was also suffering in the yoga even. I didn't like it. The teachers were whatever. I always found like some things that didn't feel right, until that yoga became for me the most healing thing ever. And why I'm saying this is that it always needs practice. Anything that we find, any tool that we find, it takes practice. It takes repetition. It takes coming back to that uncomfortability, unfamiliarity. And then that lotus will slowly grow and bloom like a beautiful flower. So, yeah, one thing I wanted to say, that not everyone is in the place where, you know, they just can catch themselves and find the teachings in that deep suffering. And whenever, if there's someone here like who doesn't know what to do when they're in a very, very deep suffering, one thing works always, is to help others, to be of service to others in any way that you can figure out. So it can be feeding the dogs, helping kids, cleaning, I don't know, whatever you can do, whatever is your gift or whatever is available for you, helping others will always give you back in a way or another. And that will just make that initial shift for you to start that growth process, that you will get yourself from that deepest mud into the surface, and then you can start maybe, you know, doing the yoga practices, and slowly it will get better. So yeah, if you don't know what to do, help other people, and help them also in a way that you would like someone to help you. Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, that's it. The moment you step into serving others, I just would recommend that you also allow yourself to be served as well, because I used serving others as my way of suffering for many, many years. And I'm sure a lot of you know that, right? I kept myself very busy and away from suffering by creating self-value by only helping others. So remember, if you like helping others, chances are somebody might want to help you too. don't take him away from that. So let's hear from some others, and it could be on this topic or anything else. Or Billy, you have something more you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I could go on all day between what you two have
I
just
told
said,
you it was
but I'm
going to
not
be a
going to.
good
What I'm going
topic.
to say, what I'm going to say is it like because I'm really keen to use these goals also as an opportunity to set some goals uh, of actions that we can actually take ourselves to help this process of integration. And a lot of what has come up on this call is being of service. So I'll just take this opportunity to create an invitation, which is in the next week or in the next month, because obviously we'll check in on the next integration call, is if it's a month, I would say do like 3 random acts of kindness. So set yourself a challenge to do 3 random acts of kindness between now and the next integration call. And that can take any form. And in the next one, I'd love to hear how you guys, what you did and how you did, and how I did also, because I will be doing that. So that's all I'll say on that.
It's a great idea. Be someone's day maker. Feel free to make me the person you do it with. I accept. So let's hear from some others. Where's this hitting you? Do you have a question? Remember, you've got, Billy and Valeria here, and we've got some very, very high intelligent people that have a lot of experience. You can ask a question as well. Who would like to come in? Zoom user, and then we'll go to Darcy next, and then Daniel. So I'm gonna give you the unmute. I'm sorry, I only see that your name is Zoom user and you've got a red top on. Yet bottom left, unmute yourself. Can you do it? Glasses? Oh, I guess we lost her. She might be having trouble. So then let's go to Darcy.
Oh, hey, JC, thank you. I'm loving in this sharing and what you guys are presenting, and it's just reminding me in those moments of suffering, I've really got to that point of, what if everything is perfect? And in this moment, in this suffering, in this moment, and what if this is perfect? And just to pull out, and I'll ask myself, okay, what is perfect about this, and really finding the gifts in it, in the deepest of suffering. And so that's been really, really helpful to me, because one of the things that I recognized that I was doing in the past was that I didn't feel that I was creating transformation or growth in my life if I wasn't suffering. So subconsciously, somehow, I would actually create suffering in my life, because it's like, okay, now it's like if I'm moving through this and I'm strong and I'm tough and I'm creating a transformation in my life. So I was actually creating over and over these moments of suffering. So that's been a real shift now in my life, that I'm not perpetuating that if I'm not suffering, I'm not growing. So just wanted to share that.
So good. Yeah, we can get caught up in thinking that because growth takes place out of the comfort zone. So we can get uneasy with the idea that we're not pushing into suffering all the time, right? That's a big distinction. I saw Daniel. Did you raise your hand before? Or no? Or maybe you just swatted a fly while you were on your chair there? Okay. If not, then we'll go to Zach.
Sure, thank you. I'll keep it brief. I was in the Sacred Valley at Arkana in January, and I left like not really fully sure what happened, to be honest. It was very physically difficult, and visually difficult also, or as well. But just 2 points. The one about suffering, I think, or sorry, the one about restructuring something happening to you to happening for you is kind of putting a spin on what I just said in the sense that I was shown all of that and went through all of that for a reason. Even if I don't understand it, that's okay for now. And I don't know, I kind of don't, I guess I was living in a state of suffering without really like recognizing that. But I think it's normal to, like, we're humans, right? So it's just interesting what you said that I wrote it down, so I'm looking at it with the bows and the two arrows. I didn't recognize suffering through that lens, so thank you for sharing that.
That's awesome. Yeah, isn't it fun? Because the way you were just talking, he kind of looks like Ari, by the way. I don't know, like maybe his brother or something, a friend of ours. But I remember that's kind of what I was talking like when I came after my first, I was like kind of a little bit confused by it. Um, so, change the way you look at things you look at change. You just kind of like accepted a different vantage point and you're like, oh, so play with that. Play with it. And you know, I even Valeria, with all the work she's done, she's got a lifetime of work ahead of her. So I don't know how you would answer that, Billy, if somebody says, "What's the goal of integration?" Like, how will I know if I've arrived? How would you answer that, Billy?
I would I would say that you're arriving moment to moment every day. There is no goal. The goal is to do the best you you can right now, moment to moment, day to day, and um, recognize like some days you're not going to feel great, and that's okay. And some days you're going to feel great, and that's okay. Some days you'll feel neutral, that's okay. And just in Vipassana, they teach like all misery comes from craving and aversion, and I'm a massive advocate of Vipassana. I could go on to where I am now, but I love Vipassana um, because your whole life is a sensation. You're experiencing sensations, and your interpretation through one of the six sense doors, right? So through your eyes or through your ears, through your mouth, etc. And you're interpreting that sensation as an experience that you're perceiving as good or bad or nice or not. And then you're either wanting more of it or you're wanting less of it. When in reality, it's just arising and passing away. It just happens and then it goes. And that's life. So in that way, it's just with an open and loving heart in connection to yourself, with integrity to yourself. Just do the best you can day to day and let things come, let them go. Don't be attached to them. Flow and enjoy. Enjoy the day. Enjoy your life. Enjoy the good things, enjoy the bad things.
And
They're
enjoy
all just sensations.
your breath.
And enjoy your breath.
The amazing Alan Watts. I don't know if there's any Alan Watts fans there. If you've never heard of him, go watch like videos on him. He speaks our language. But he talks about the fact that when you look up at the sky and see clouds, the clouds, like our thoughts, don't define the sky. They're actually, if you pay attention, they're just passing by, just like our thoughts. So, your brain thinks whether you want it to or not about 40 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And, we just have this weird ability to think about thinking and grab a couple of those thoughts and claim that they are. Let's go. Oh, by the way, I'm going to arm everybody with 3 powerful words that you can insert at every sentence you ever say that will remind you of the impermanence of life. So if you're struggling, just always when you make a statement, try practicing saying at this time. And if you say at this time, it's just a reminder to your cranial vault that it's just happening right now. Right? So enjoy that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. All right, Lexi, the other person that smiles when she's in pain.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. Um, yeah, I showed up late. Um, but I think that this is a very good talk to come on to. I had a wonderful dinner with one of my friends that I met in yoga training. And, I always tend to um find myself with people that are just really, really strong, and most of that strength comes from difficult times. I didn't really know her story, and she was open to sharing it. And it was kind of similar to what I had been through. And, she's about 10 years older than me. And I asked her, I was like, so, how do you find distance from what has happened to you? Like in a month or, in May, it's going to be about a decade since this trauma has happened. And I just want that distance. I want that healthy divorce from what's happened to my body and to be able to not like disassociate from it, but just like to say that that's no longer me. And she's like, well, easy. She's like, every 7 years, all of your cells change. They're all new. She's like, I am not that body that that's what happened to me. She's like, easy as that, and I swear to God, no one has ever told me that. I don't know if anyone has mentioned that to me, like just on a cellular level, because like I was so convinced, and I mean, obviously, emotions, trauma is stored in that body, but to feel like just a little bit of distance from just knowing the fact that the cells that I'm like feeling like in my body are new. They're not that 17-year-old girl, you know? Was like really profound. And I just wanted to share that with anyone that has like went through, violence or terrible physical trauma that like, I mean, that didn't just heal me hearing it, but gosh, did that provide a little bit of distance and like less um I think less suffering on it. I think I'm still figuring out how to best serve with my suffering. I just started teaching a couple of yoga classes, super gentle, super meditative. And I think my pain is helping others because not everyone that comes into my yoga class is feeling all ready to like go and sit down and do some breath work or do some gentle movement. Like there's shit that's happening with everyone that walks through the door, and I feel good. Like what Billy said, like doing an act of kindness, I feel good giving my good energy to someone else, like it feels good to like know that like my intention of the class is to ground, is to find a safe space for anyone to just be who they are. And it kind of is helping. Like it is, I don't know if that's landing, but that's kind of what I've been going through recently. And yeah, I'm sure Valeria, feels that same good feeling as well, and transmuting the pain into joy or into love. And yeah, and then obviously Billy going into that as well, like I just think it's amazing. And yeah, I love all the yogis. But yeah, that was my profound moment this week, was hearing about the cells just being reborn every 7 years. And I think that's what I need to continue to focus on when shit gets hard.
Just before you jump in, Ty, um, this actually goes to what you were saying about relationships, about like you're not the 17-year-old, you're like, because it's this concept of every day you're born again, what you do today matters most. But every day you're literally born, like your cells change, your blood
Yeah.
changes, your body changes, your mind changes. In Vipassana, they say like if you dip your head in the river and you lift your head up, it's a new river already. So it's like, how do you show up? How do you see that new river? And that's turning from like suffering to servering. So you're a serverer. Um, in that way, what Lex is saying, I'll also say for anybody who's on this call, which is service, is Valeria is the Arkana integration coach, for those of you that don't know. And tomorrow, which I'll post to the Arkana groups, I'll post on here as well. And Ty, you should definitely come to this if you can. Is she'll be giving a breathwork journey, so like what Lex is doing in service, and it's donation based. So you guys are welcome to come to that also. Yeah, sorry, Ty.
I just wanted to add for Alexi, and thank you, Billy, for that. Yeah, so when we have gone through, our suffering, like I know, Lexi, what you're talking about, and when we have that experience in ourselves, we have the empathy also towards others, and that helps us in the space holding a lot. So that's why you feel so good, because you truly understand. You are able to tap into those people's feelings and emotions in a deep level, because you have that deep suffering experience yourself. So again, if we want to look at the suffering from that lens, that it actually can help us to help other people as well. Because if we've been always very comfortable, maybe we wouldn't end up in, doing a yoga teacher training or doing a breathwork teacher training, or end up in a service-based job. So yeah, that was very lovely that you shared, and such a beautiful thing. Yeah, blessings.
Beautiful. Ty?
Yeah, that's inspiring. Oh, I love you, baby girl. Have fun. That's so inspiring, because I think one thing I definitely took from Arkana was that group share following every ceremony. And so I make sure and intentionally set that same space following breathwork every single Sunday. And it's really interesting to watch individuals do their best to navigate some of the most difficult spaces of their life and events that have happened in their life. And it's so often, initially anyway, they're trying to rid themselves of that. They need to get that out of their body or out of their consciousness, whatever it is. So this idea of being reborn, like every cell being replaced within 7 years, I'm also in the same ballpark of Billy's. Every time my eyes wake up, new self just woke up, and I get the ability to change what I'm doing literally in that moment. I can be somebody completely different. And I can do that for the rest of my life and keep changing. And I do keep changing. But to Valeria's point as well, is you probably are not doing what you're doing without going through whatever you went through. I can tell it's heavy. I can hear it in your voice. I hear it in your emotion. But that adds to the authenticity of who you are and what you do. And people follow authenticity. We are connected to that. It is the strongest vibrational force that we can admit as a human being. So through that, whatever experience it was, It has created the best version of you. And now you get to share that best version with others. So though you are new those 7 years, we don't really want that story to go away, because the thing that is our darkest moment is what brings us to the most lightest moments of our life, which is you literally connecting with people. You're using whatever that experience was to now further somebody else in their journey. There's no better currency than literally being able to pull whatever shit you had within now is healing people. You're using your own personal experience to heal. And so with that idea is you are literally a sage. And so is everybody on this call. It's just being able to tap into whatever that moment is for you, reversing that perspective, and now using that as your superpower. The thing that I ran away from my whole time of this pain was the loss of my little brother, and how traumatic it was of him dying in my arms. And it just became my identity. It became who I was. I was this broken person. But then I'm now on the other side of the fence, and I go and I search for these people that believe that that's who they are as well. And I have this ability now to, like, I call myself a key maker, is I make keys for all these people, and I give them the ability to go to that door and unlock it. I can't unlock it for you. I can't step through that door for you. But damn it, I'm going to print so many keys for everybody in my community to give them the opportunity to go find out that that darkness is actually you casting the shadow, because you're so fucking big. You're the real deal. And so that fact that you changed your darkness into your light and now providing light for others in their darkest moments, you don't want that to go away. That is part of you now. And because of that, I love you, and you're out there crushing it. You're changing the world, girl. You're fucking changing the world. Go.
Thank you so much, Ty. I did not expect to cry for the 50th time on this, on these calls. But just to hear that, I mean, you're super inspirational as well. And I just, it just like it makes my heart feel good. And I love the fact that maker for others, because you're not like, preaching or saying I know which key is for you. It's just providing a space for them to find their own key and unlock their own darkness and transmute it or whatever. But thank you so much, Ty. That was deep.
I think
Much
I
love.
think Ty is the key master. I like that name, the key master. Guys, thanks you. This was just amazing. I don't know if you feel it, but it was part of the intention, but it's for those of you that haven't returned to Arkana, and I'm planning my next trip at the end of the year. This is kind of a little bit of a nice little gathering that reminds me. I feel like it when I'm with you guys. So just thank you so much for that. Billy, any final words at the top? Arkana news or anything like?
No, just well, we Hilaire and I we will be in Arkana from June, end of June till the end of the year. So if anybody wants to come while we're there, come. And Ty, I'm going to reach out to you about something randomly. But just thank you all for showing up. Like, is commitment. Do you know what I mean? And that's what you need for the growth. So it's a beautiful thing. I have nothing profound to say. Know yourself, know your love, know your light, share it with everybody. Do the 3 random acts of kindness, because that will make these things even more worthwhile. And also, obviously, Arkana's mission statement is changing the world one heart at a time. And the way you do that is by making keys, right? So create some keys and then start giving them to others. And what will happen actually is if you do that, then that person may also do that, even if they smile at someone else, and you'll share positivity in ways that you never knew. So thank you everybody for showing up. Thank you all for your shares. I've posted in the chat box at the bottom I posted in the chat box in the bottom, and I've just posted it again. The enjoy your breath work class tomorrow. It's super cool. And if you would like, we actually have like a WhatsApp group as well. So if you'd like me to add that to you, just send me a message. You'll find my number in all the Arkana groups, obviously. And yeah, come tomorrow. It's super cool. Lex would know because she comes to everyone.
I want
So
to say
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
blessings to everybody. Billy and Valeria, whenever you're coming home, safe travels. Safe travels to everybody. I've got an idea that I want to pitch Jose to make a Thai alarm clock that goes off in the morning or something like that. But I love you guys, and remember, this is an open format. It's going to be like this every month. Keep in touch through Friends of Arkana, through the channels. Don't wait 30 days if you need to talk to somebody, if you feel something that needs to be said. This is amazing that not only can you go to this breath work tomorrow, but you can also speak to Valeria about doing some integration coaching. There's a lot of help there for us. And I think I'll close by saying, I think we've all been given keys and we just forgot that we were keeping them to ourselves. Right? And maybe that's part of the suffering. So let's give our keys away. We can make duplicates, right, Ty? Is that how you do it? All right. Love you guys. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.